if we as big foods players don't change what people eat, we're not going to create a shift to the more diverse demand that the planet needs.
I think we're hearing more and more commitments from different businesses, in light of our growing knowledge on the root causes of biodiversity loss. And I think my question now is, how do we change from ambition to action? How can businesses act towards achieving their circular economy goals and also reducing biodiversity loss in their operations?
Yeah, absolutely. Businesses have a very central role to play in all of this. And, while the exact things that you do will depend a little bit on which industry you're in, what part of the value chain you occupy, there are kind of 3 steps that we think any business can really do now to start moving into that action space from that ambition. And the first of those is really just assessing what are your current impacts and dependencies on biodiversity and setting targets based off of that. And a crucial part of this will really be taking a whole supply chain view. So you need to think about where are your impacts on nature, not only in your direct operations, but also upstream and downstream. And, we have examples like Kering in the fashion world, for instance. They've developed an environmental profit and loss tool in which they can look at their whole supply chain and assess what their impact is on things like water use, land use, greenhouse gas emissions. And based off of that, they identify what are the areas that they need to intervene to have the greatest impact on biodiversity. And, once you've set those clear targets, then the next step really is seeing what are the circular economy intervention points and levers that you can use to achieve those ambitions. So Schneider Electric is another company who did a similar exercise. They found out that one of their biggest impacts on nature is in their natural resource extraction for their products. And so what they ended up doing was they came up with a retrofit solution for some of their electrical equipment called EcoFit. And with that, they're able to replace certain components of their product to upgrade it rather than having to take the entire product back and send a new one to the client. So that's been able to reduce significantly their pressure on natural resource extraction, but also cut costs for their clients because they don't need to replace the entire system. And once all of those things have been done, we can also take this broader systemic view. So how can you collaborate with others to drive that system level change? And that's, across your supply chain, but also with different stakeholder groups and with different industries even. So, a fashion industry company might think about how can I do regenerative agriculture for my cotton, but at the same time, many in the food industry are thinking about that same thing. And so how can we kind of build these mutually beneficial relationships where actually we're learning from each other and really contributing to reaching the same goal together? That would be important.
So we've been really emphasizing the role of businesses and policymakers because there's a huge opportunity to really leverage the circular economy to help meet biodiversity ambitions. And businesses in particular, what we've been seeing is that more and more companies are now starting to see the value of biodiversity, but also how they can leverage the circular economy to find solutions. So we identify 3 key steps that businesses can take already today to help tackle biodiversity loss with the circular economy. So the first step is about assessing your impact and dependencies on nature. And once you understand where key priorities are, it's to then set scientifically based targets. The second step is to identify circular economy opportunities that help you reach those targets. And here a study, as I mentioned earlier, looks into these 4 sectors, and there you can have an indication of where those opportunities are and how that can help not only safeguard biodiversity, but also rebuild biodiversity. And the third step is collaboration. So we need collaboration to be able to find innovative solutions that can help drive that system level change that we need. So collaboration across supply chains, across sectors, with also multiple stakeholders. We can, with universities, NGOs, and policymakers. And together, we can find solutions and collectively work to help tackle this global crisis.
Numerous papers have shown the kind of macroeconomic opportunity of a circular economy. I guess our viewers might be listening to the recommendations thinking, well, is this something that businesses would do kind of out of the goodness of their heart? Is that partly where the role of policy comes from? Is there an economic opportunity attached to this as well? Do we know that yet?
So the circular economy absolutely has a huge economic opportunity for businesses and economies just in general. It's really all about decoupling economic growth from our consumption of finite resources.
I wanted to hear from you, and companies like Unilever and other food manufacturers and retailers, what can they do to help actually build rather than deplete biodiversity through their very products and supply chains?
Yeah, I think a really important start point is that biodiversity will be driven in the end by more diverse consumption. Today, you all know it, but just 4 crops, wheat, rice, corn, potatoes, account for about 60% of the calories we all consume globally. So if we as big foods players don't change what people eat, we're not going to create a shift to the more diverse demand that the planet needs. So that's what we've also at Unilever been focusing on education. So last year, together with the WWF, we released the Knorr Future 50 Foods report. And that is a really interesting report that identifies 50 diverse foods that we should eat more of in order to increase biodiversity. If we want more diversity, more crop diversification, we need to eat more new foods. So at a very practical level, Knorr now offers swaps in its products and recipes. So things like using lentils instead of beef in a bolognese, or quinoa for rice in a curry, or sweet potatoes instead of potatoes.